Hi, everyone. It's Lauren here, and I have a client named Dan who asked me to share some success stories last week for the purpose of not just being encouraged and hearing those success stories, but also listening for the techniques that people used to create that success in their life. I'm going to make a two-part video. The first part, I will be pulling some success stories from Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And in the second part, I will share a few success stories from The Power of Imagination. Actually, this is a collection of books. The one book of Neville's, Neville Goddard is the author of this. He wrote The Law and the Promise, and that's where a lot of these success stories are hiding. I would also like to make the recommendation, and I will link this in the video. One of my coaches is Agnes Vivarelli. She has written 4 books, and they are all full of success stories. So I will send you to her website to purchase those if you so desire. You should be able to have access to those immediately because I believe that they are ebooks. So let me read a few of these that I've pulled out from Dr. Joseph Murphy. These are a little bit shorter, so I have quite a few. The first one is called How Her Subconscious Responded. I received a letter from a woman named Ruth A., who attended my lectures. She wrote, "I'm 75 years old, a widow with a grown family. I was living alone on a small pension and Social Security. My life seemed barren, hopeless. Then I remembered your lecture about the powers of the subconscious mind. You said that ideas could be conveyed to the subconscious mind by repetition, faith, and expectancy. Could it be true? I decided to try. I had nothing to lose. I began to repeat frequently with all the feeling I could muster. I am wanted. I am loved. I am happily married to a kind, loving, and spiritually minded man. I am secure and fulfilled. I kept on doing this many times a day for about 2 weeks. One day at the corner drugstore, I was introduced to a retired pharmacist. I found him to be kind, understanding, and very religious. He was a perfect answer to my prayer. Within a week, he proposed to me. Now we are on our honeymoon in Europe. I know that the intelligence within my subconscious mind brought us together in divine order." Then Murphy remarks, Ruth discovered that the treasure house was within her. Her prayer was felt true in her heart, and her affirmation sunk down by osmosis into her subconscious mind, which is the creative medium. The moment she succeeded in bringing about a subjective embodiment, her subconscious mind brought about the answer through the law of attraction. Her deeper mind, full of wisdom and intelligence, brought her and her new husband together in divine order. So remember what Bob Proctor says, vibration is the primary law, attraction is the secondary law. How did she create this success? She repeated over and over an affirmation, which was mentioned in her story. That affirmation sunk down into her subconscious mind, which is her emotional mind. She got emotionally involved with that new idea that she was married to a kind, loving, and spiritual-minded man. And then through the laws, she's vibrating at that new frequency of being married to the right person. And because she's in harmony with that frequency, now the law of attraction kicks in to bring that person into her 3D sphere for all of those events to transpire. Love, love, love it. All right, where is the next story? How he overcame a nasty temper. I was consulted by a man whose marriage and career were both in serious trouble. Hugh D's problem was his chronic irritability or bad temper. He was concerned about this himself, but if anyone tried to discuss it with him, he exploded in anger. He constantly told himself that everyone was picking on him and that he had to defend himself against them. To counter this negative auto-suggestion, I advised him to use positive auto-suggestion. And there's a note right there. Remember, your subconscious mind is totally subjective. Whatever you put into it, a positive suggestion or a negative suggestion, its job is to return to you what you put in it. Just like you could plant deadly nightshade next to corn in a fertile field. That is your subconscious mind's job, is to return what is put into it. In the beginning, he was affirming that everybody was out to get him. And hence, that's what played out in his world. Now he's going to switch it up. Let's see what happens. Several times a day, morning, noon, and night, prior to sleep, he was to repeat to himself, "From now on, I shall grow more good-humored. Joy, happiness, and cheerfulness are now becoming my normal states of mind. Every day, I'm becoming more and more lovable and understanding. I will be a center of cheer and goodwill to all those around me, infecting them with my good spirits. This happy, joyous, and cheerful mood is now becoming my normal, natural state of mind. I am grateful." After a month, his wife and his coworkers remarked on how much easier he was to get along with. I hope you can see that shift. Here's a third story: how she restored her memory. A woman of 75 had always been proud of her ability to remember. Like everyone, she forgot things now and then, but she paid no attention. However, when she was older, she began to notice these occasions and worry about them. Each time she forgot something, she said to herself, "I must be losing my memory because of my age." As a result of this negative auto-suggestion, there it is again. Remember, if you're suggesting negative things to yourself, that's what will take place in your 3D world. It will eventually push out. So make sure that the things that you're dominantly suggesting to yourself are the things that you want to show up in your 3D world. As a result of this negative auto-suggestion, more and more names and events slipped her mind. She was close to despair. Then, fortunately, she realized how she was damaging herself. She resolved to reverse the process. Every time she felt the temptation to think, "I am losing my memory," she stopped herself. More than that, she deliberately reversed the procedure. Several times a day, she practiced induced positive auto-suggestion. She said to herself, "From today onward, my memory is improving in every way. I will always remember whatever I need to know at every moment of time and point of space. The impressions I receive will be clear and definite. I will retain them automatically and easily. Whatever I want to recall will immediately present itself in the correct form in my mind. I am improving rapidly every day. Very soon, my memory will be better than it has ever been before." At the end of 3 weeks, her memory was back to normal. Now, we never know when it's going to push out. It depends on how strong that old paradigm is holding on to you. But the more that you can persist in that new thought, notice what she did. Every time the old story came to mind, she canceled that out and immediately went to the new story. But then she also was choosing to recite that set of affirmations to herself at several junctures throughout the day so that she could solidify that new story in her subconscious mind. When you do that, know and trust that the laws are going to be laws. A law is a law because it works all the time, every time, and that new story will push out into your 3D. Here's the next one. A crippled woman walks. Dr. Quimby often used the absolute method in later years of his healing career. One of his manuscripts described how he heals a crippled woman. He was called on to visit this woman who was lame, aged, and bedridden. He states that her ailment was due to the fact that she was imprisoned by a creed so small and contracted that she could not stand upright and move about. She was living in the tomb of fear and ignorance. Because she took the Bible literally, it frightened her. In this tomb, Quimby said, was the presence and power of God trying to burst the bands, break through the bonds, and rise from the dead. When the woman would ask others for an explanation of some passage from the Bible, the answer would be a stone. Then she would hunger for the bread of life. Dr. Quimby diagnosed her case as a mind cloudy and stagnated due to the excitation of fear caused by the inability to see clearly the meaning of the passage of the Bible that she had been reading. This showed itself in her body by the heavy and sluggish feeling that would terminate as paralysis. At this point, Quimby asked her what was meant in the Bible verses, "For a little longer I shall be with you. Then I am going away to him who sent me. You will look for me, but you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come." That was from John 7:33 and 34. She replied that it meant Jesus went to heaven. Quimby explained what it really meant by telling her that Jesus would be with her a little while was his explanation of her symptoms, feelings, and their causes. He had compassion and sympathy for her momentarily, but he could not remain in that mental state. The next step was to go to him that sent us. This, Quimby pointed out, was the creative power of God in all of us. Quimby immediately traveled in his mind and contemplated the divine ideal, that is, the vitality, intelligence, harmony, and power of God functioning in the sick person. This is why he said to the woman, "Therefore, where I go, you cannot come, for you are in your narrow, restricted belief, and I am in health." This prayer and explanation produced an instantaneous sensation. A change came over her mind. She walked without her crutches. Quimby said it was one of the most singular of all his feelings. She was, as it were, dead to error, and to bring her to life or truth was to raise her from the dead. Quimby quoted the resurrection of Christ and applied it to her own Christ or health. This produced a powerful effect on her. He also explained to her that the truth that she accepted was the angel or idea that rolled away the stone of fear, ignorance, and superstition. This then released the healing power of God, which made her whole. That's where that perceptive mental faculty comes in. Remember, one of your 6 higher mental faculties is perception. She was using that mental faculty against herself. And when the doctor was able to get her to shift her perspective, she was able to see that as a physical manifestation of how she was able to get her health to change. What else do we have? One more story here. I love this one. Her dream pharmacy became a reality. Some years ago, I got to know a young pharmacist named Mary S. She worked in the prescription department of a big chain drugstore. One day, while she was filling a prescription for me, we started talking. I asked her how she liked her work. "Oh, it's fine," she said. "Between my salary and commissions, I do okay. And the company has a good profit sharing program. So with any luck, I'll be able to retire while I'm still young enough to enjoy life." I was silent for a moment, and then I asked, "Was that the way you thought it would be as a child when you decided you wanted to be a pharmacist?" Her face grew troubled. "Well, no," she replied. "I guess not. I always saw myself with my own store. I wanted to walk down the street and have people say hello to me and call me by name. And I'd know all their names because I was their druggist. You're going to think this is strange because I was their druggist. I'm sorry, you're going to think this is strange, but I even dreamed about having parents call me in the middle of the night because their kid was sick. I'd pull my clothes on over my pajamas and go down to the store and get them the medicine they needed. Not much like a 9-to-5 job behind a counter at the back end of a big store, is it?" "It certainly isn't," I said. "But why shouldn't you follow your dream? Wouldn't you be happier and more productive? Raise your sights. Get out of this place. Start your own store. "How can I?" she said, shaking her head. "That takes big money, and we're just getting by from month to month." My response was to share with her a wonderful fact. Whatever she could conceive as true, she could bring into being. I went on to tell her something about the powers of her subconscious mind. She soon understood that if she could succeed in impregnating her subconscious mind with a clear and specific idea, those powers would somehow bring it to pass. She began to imagine that she was in her own store. She mentally arranged the bottles, dispensed prescriptions, and imagined waiting on customers who were also her neighbors and friends. She also visualized a big bank balance. Mentally, she worked in that imaginary store. Like a good actor, she lived the role. Act as though I am and I will be. She put herself wholeheartedly into the act, living, moving, and acting on the assumption that she owned the store. Several years later, Mary wrote to me to say what had happened in her life since our conversation. The chain store she worked for went under because of competition from a larger store at a new mall. She found a job as a traveling representative for a major drug company, handling a territory that covered several states. One day, her work took her to a small town on the western edge of her territory. There was only one drugstore in town. She had never been there before, but the moment she walked in, she recognized it. It was exactly the store she had visualized so clearly in her imagination. Flabbergasted, she told the elderly owner of the drugstore about this amazing coincidence. In turn, the owner confided that he was about ready to retire, but did not want to sell a store that had been in his family for 3 generations to some big corporation. After several discussions, the owner offered to lend her the money to buy the store. She would be able to make the payments on the loan out of the profits of the business. The young woman moved her family to the town and soon was able to make a down payment on a big old house within walking distance of the store. Now, when she walks to work in the morning, everyone she passes says hello and calls her by name. They know her because she is their druggist. So what can you pick up from that story? This was something that she had been dreaming of since she was a little girl. And it comes more naturally to do that imagining, that daydreaming when we're young, when we're kids, right? And then real life takes over. But it took one suggestion from Dr. Murphy to have her intentionally use her imagination. And when she intentionally used her imagination, she filled in all the details. Imagine that movie playing on the screen of her mind, how she's arranging the prescription bottles, how she's walking to work, waving, and everyone's calling her name, right? Is it any surprise that she was able to be in the right place at the right time? You know, the book talked about an amazing coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. She created that opportunity to meet with that drugstore owner who was ready to sell. And that is how the creative process works. I love these stories. Let me go back because I might have missed one. If not, I will find it and make a different recording. There's so many good ones in this book. All right, last one for now. Banishing stage fright. Judy L., a suburban Pennsylvania wife and mother, was proud of her expertise in painting floral scenes on china. Many of her friends displayed her art in their homes. When her daughter's teacher asked her to come to the class and talk about her hobby, she declined because of her great fear of speaking in public, even to a class of 8-year-olds. She had read in my books suggestions on overcoming fear and determined she would follow them. Every morning when she awoke, And every evening before she went to sleep, she'd relax and repeat this meditation. I am a talented artist, and I can share my skills so others can appreciate and even learn them. I am not afraid to talk to groups about it. I will speak to my daughter's class and then to other groups. After a few months, she went to the school and showed the children some of her work and explained how she did it. She wrote to me that not only did the children and the teacher thank her, but other teachers asked her to speak to their classes. From that time on, Judy lost all fear of speaking in public and later joined the Toastmasters Club, a group of men and women who meet regularly to give talks and improve their public speaking confidence and ability. If you adapt this procedure to your situation and carry it out sincerely and confidently, the death of fear is certain. All right, I will leave it at that for now. I hope you enjoyed those stories, and I hope you were able to learn a little bit of techniques and mindset tips from the stories that Dr. Murphy shared. Let me know how I can help you further. I'm Lauren Weibert. I'm your mindset coach.